Right, so today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about Transformers War for Cybertron Trilogy, Part 1, Siege. Let's just roll the intro. Right, so before I talk about this show in its entirety, all 6 episodes, I've got to say that yesterday I picked up the Kingdom Hearts Story So Far collection, which has like everything up to 3, and I've also already got 3. So what I want to do is kind of a retrospective series thing, but I want your guys' opinion. I put this out on Twitter and I put it out in one of the post community things, because I can do that now, because I've got 1,000 subscribers. I can do that now. Just saying whether I should play the games on YouTube here on the channel, or whether I should play them over on Twitch. And I just need your guys' opinion on where I should play those games, because I'm going to be doing the actual like retrospective videos here on the main channel, but I'm either going to be playing them here or on Twitch, and that is up to you guys. But yeah, Transformers. There's new Transformers content out, and I loved it. I honestly loved this show. It's got a fucking long title though. That title's a mouthful and a half, but everything about this show is great. I just say that, like, right now, everything about the show is great. It's perfect Transformers fun, and that's kind of my biggest like takeaway from anything Transformers. If I had fun with it, it's good, and I had fun with this. I mean, it's a dark, depressing watch because there's death, violence, war, and you know, just downright depression everywhere. It's not a fun show. It's not like the films where you've just got Sam Witwicky just going around like no Optimus. No, you don't have any of that. It's completely set on Cybertron. It's the war for Cybertron. It's more the war for the Allspark, but it just happens to be on Cybertron, and it's a younger, like less experienced Optimus Prime. He's just kind of taken command of the Autobots after the death of Alpha Trion. Him and Ultra Magnus are butting heads, which leads to Ultra Magnus going to Megatron and saying, "Look, can we just stop this? Can we just end it?" And Ultra Magnus, okay, yeah, spoilers, by the way. I will be spoiling the shit out of this. Ultra Magnus ends up going to Megatron, saying, right, we need to stop this, becomes a prisoner of war, then, like, ends up dying, and used as, like, a thing to spread a virus that only targets like the communication systems of Autobot bases. But that's all later on in the season. We've got some interesting stuff with Bumblebee that happens in this show. Bumblebee is probably the most interesting character, and probably, like, you know, he's the character that we wanted to focus on, but also they wanted to focus on other characters as well, because it's not just Bumblebee Fest. It's like Bumblebee is obviously the POV character and the character that like that they want to be the audience's eyes, but also Optimus is obviously the main character, and we also have like some of the Decepticons that get a lot of screen time, like Megatron obviously, Perceptor, not Perceptor, yeah, Perceptor, is the one who gets like a lot of screen time, and obviously when he dies, it's the big sad moment that, like, you know, a lot of the things, like, none of the deaths actually like had much of an impact. I feel like they were just deaths for the sake of deaths, because there was a lot of them. Like, we had Ultra Magnus dying, Perceptor dying, and a lot of other characters that just kind of got shot and died, and it didn't really feel like it meant a lot when a character died, because it happened so often. But we also have a lot of emphasis on Jetfire. Jetfire is probably the main Decepticon that you follow, who ends up becoming an Autobot by the end of it, because he witnesses the death of Ultra Magnus, and he's like, that wasn't an honourable death. You killed him whilst he was in handcuffs and a prisoner of war. Why? That's not honourable. He couldn't defend himself. And also, like, Megatron wanted to commit genocide on a, like, worldwide scale, which Jetfire was not okay with, so he ends up joining the Autobots at the end. And then there's there's a big smackdown fight. There's a big action sequence where Omega Supreme shows up, and then that's the end of the show. Like I said, six episodes. There's not a lot that happens, but mostly this is just world building. It's building it's building Cybertron, and it's showing you like how bleak and grim and dark everything is. And for a setup set of episodes, I really liked this, and I also really wanted to see more, and I'm really interested to see where this goes, because we haven't had a good Transformers thing for a while. I mean, the films are, apart from Bumblebee, the films are like nothing to really write home about. The latest shows haven't been that interesting or good, but this is showing us that the Transformers brand is more than just something for kids. This is adult without needing to be needlessly violent, or without needing to put a lot of swearing in it. There's no swearing in this. It's great. It's a PG show, and it feels like it's not dumbed down for kids. That's probably because it's on Netflix. But it actually feels like it's, you know, both. It's something that you can watch with the family, even though it is quite dark and depressing. But it's also something that, like, an older fan, like someone from my age up to someone that's like 40 that grew up with the 80s show, they're going to enjoy this because it's targeted at them. It's not targeted towards kids where it's dumbed down to like go to that level. Well, I don't think kids shows need to be that dumbed down, because like Ben 10 was never like a dumbed down show, but that was for kids. And like Transformers Prime, is this as good as Transformers Prime? That's the big question that I was going to ask myself, and there's not enough episodes to actually justify me saying whether it's better or not. From what we've seen so far, I prefer the animation style in Prime, but I think the story here is better, and I prefer the continuous story to the episodic stuff that we got from Prime. Prime is still fantastic, and like there hasn't been enough of this to judge whether it's better or worse than that. I just think it's a different thing. It's a different telling of the Transformers story, and it's doing it in a way that I prefer more. And it's also not afraid to hold back. And I hope that they like go more into investing in the characters in the second season, because yes, we do have a character study on Prime, and yes, we do have a character study on Bumblebee, and like him being an outsider, being like a nomad who hasn't really placed his allegiance with either side, to eventually becoming an Autobot by the end of this, by the end of the season, or by the end of the chapter, as this is called. And we kind of see that. We get a little bit with Wheeljack and a little bit with Ratchet, and like a lot with Jetfire and Perceptor, but there's not a lot like with all the other characters, and it kind of got the same problem with the movies, where it was just kind of like the Transformers were just robot punching bags that just punched each other. But at least here we have some character to each of the characters. Like, the characters are characters, and you feel like you actually feel for them. But also, there's not enough time. Like, there's 3 hours to build up, like, to get you to care for these characters. And even when it gets to the end, where it's implied that, like, everyone on the arc just died, like, the main characters died, it's not impactful, or it's not as impactful as I think they wanted us to think it was, because A, we know that they're fine, because this is a prequel, and it's a trilogy, so we know that, like, the next parts are going to have those characters in it anyway. But also, like, we didn't spend enough time with them. So either tack on a few episodes or have a few more scenes just around the base camp that was just, you know, talking. Because I don't feel like this had a lot of intermingling with the other Autobots, the Autobot side characters. There was just kind of like, yeah, Mirage bickering with Perceptor, or people questioning Optimus, because of course Optimus doesn't know what he's doing at this point. He's still, like, you know, he's still, like, new to this. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. If that's not like intensely clear, I really enjoyed this show, like, a lot. The animation style, I think, is the one thing that, like, was a bit of a letdown. I like it. It's not the best animated Transformers show that I've seen. It's not the best animation for a Transformers show. That goes to Prime, because you can't beat Prime. But this is still its own thing, and it definitely, the way that it's animated, it's kind of both cell shaded and CG. It's kind of a mix up between the two, and it feels very comic booky, which I like. It's like a darker, grimmer version, like a Transformers-ified version of the same art style that was in Spider-Verse, I think. I don't know if I should compare the two, but Spider-Verse was very, like, cell-shaded and CG at the same time. This is the same thing, but it's a lot darker, a lot grimmer, and a lot like, you know, a war-torn planet. You actually feel like this world has been, you know, on the brink of, like, war for ages. And that's the feeling that you get with this series. It feels like this is a desperate war-torn planet, and that's the greatest thing about this show, is that it feels like it's been fucking beaten to high hell. So essentially what this show is it's just the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee. It's just the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee, but stretched out into 3 hours. And I love that, because the first 5 minutes of Bumblebee was some of the best Transformers we've seen on screen ever. And that's what this is. And it's brilliant. But yeah, that's kind of my, like, takeaway, my thoughts on Transformers War for Cybertron Chapter 1, Siege. Again, I think it's a mouthful. I do want to talk about the voice acting for a bit, because I think Starscream's voice is amazing. He sounds like a chipmunk, which he definitely should. He sounds like a sniveling, conniving, like, backstabbing prick, which, you know, it works really well. Jetfire's voice is, like, both both kind of sinister and both kind of like, you know, he sounds like Dinobot in Beast Wars, which, you know, if you've watched Beast Wars, you know what Dinobot is like. So Jetfire is essentially Dinobot, and Megatron sounds like Megatron. The only one that I don't really like is Optimus Prime. I mean, when he's talking normally, it sounds like Peter Cullen. It's like a good impression of Peter Cullen. But then when he gets angry, like, it becomes just growling. It becomes just like, "We are not Decepticons," and it doesn't have like the same, like, I get that this is a younger Optimus Prime that isn't like, for lack of a better words, in his prime, but that was a terrible pun. But that doesn't like negate the fact that it doesn't sound serious when he just sounds like a screaming child every time that he's like yelling. And Optimus Prime shouldn't really yell. That's a weird thing that he does in this show, is like he yells and he loses his temper a lot. And I get that's more towards the fact that he is a younger Prime and that he's not like been the Autobot leader for like forever. But also, it's just a weird thing to see, like Optimus Prime yelling is weird. And like some of the action, like some of the action scenes, like especially like towards the early stages of the show, very stilted. It feels like the animation was like not catered towards an action scene, which is weird because it's a Transformers show, so it should be catered toward the action. But that's the only gripes that I have. That and the fact that the name is so hard to say when you're reviewing it over and over again. But that's it. Final takeaway: Transformers War for Cybertron Siege is a really good show. It's only 3 hours. It's only like 6 episodes, half an hour each. So you should be able to get it done in the sitting, which I was able to do. And if you're a fan of Transformers, go watch it. You probably already watched it. If you're not a fan of Transformers, this might just turn you around, because it's nothing like the movies. It's actually good. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know in the comments below about the whole like Kingdom Hearts retrospective thing, whether you want it here, whether you want it over on Twitch. And let me know if you've seen Transformers War for Cybertron Siege and what you thought about it. Peace.